Hi guys, I'm going to explain how to check robustness of outcomes of simultaneous shifts of demand curve and supply curve. Here you see there are two graphs, but the direction of those simultaneous shifts of the demand curve and supply curve are of same kind in nature. That is, in both of those graphs, we see the new demand curve shifted to the right side of the current location, the dotted line, and in both of those graphs, the supply curve shifted to the left side of the current location, the dotted red line. But now we will compare their outcomes of those simultaneous shifts in both of those graphs. So first, let's examine the outcome on the left-hand side graph of these simultaneous shifts. On the left-hand side graph, we see the the new demand curve, the dotted blue line, and the new supply curve, the dotted red line, they intersected at the point equilibrium point 2, E2, and that determined the new price P2 and the new quantity Q2. Now let us see what happened to those new price P2 compared to the old price P1 and what happened to the new quantity Q2 compared to the old quantity Q1. So on the left hand side graph we saw the new price P2 is greater than old price P1. On the other hand, the new quantity Q2 is also greater than the old quantity Q1. Now let's note those changes, the outcomes, and compare these outcomes with those on the right hand side graph. On the right hand side graph also we saw the shift directions are the same. The dotted demand curve is on the right hand side of the current location, and the dotted supply curve, the dotted red line, is also on the left hand side. But the outcome as determined by the equilibrium point E2 are showing that the new price P2 is greater than P1, which is the exact same as what we found on the left hand side price outcome. New price P2 is greater than P1. So the price changes are same in both of those graphs. Now let's compare the outcome in the quantity changes. So the new quantity Q2 is on the right hand side graph is less than the original quantity Q1, unlike what we found on the left hand side graph where we saw the new quantity is greater than old quantity. So we can comment here that because we found the price outcome being the same in both of those graphs, and that P2 is greater than P1, so the price change is robust in this context. But the quantity change is mixed or uncertain or non-robust, because on the left hand side we saw new quantity is greater than old quantity, but on the right hand side graph we saw the new quantity being smaller than old quantity. Thus, the quantity outcome is non-robust. So in future, when you are posed with this kind of question of examining the outcome of simultaneous shifts of demand curve and supply curve, then you should take a pen and pencil and then try to draw the same shifting into 2-3 iterations by changing the magnitude of the shift. For example, on the left hand side, the demand curve shifting magnitude was more relative to the demand curve shifting magnitude on the right hand side. On the other hand, the supply curve shifted a little on the left hand side, but the supply curve shifted a whole lot on the right hand side. So by changing the shifting magnitude but keeping the direction same, you can compare the results between the price outcome and quantity outcome. And for the part of your result that is same across the iterations, that part is robust. Like in this context, price increase is robust because in both cases we found new price is increased. But the quantity outcome was non-robust because sometimes we found new quantity being greater than old quantity, and some other instances we found the new quantity being smaller than old quantity. So I hope in future when you posed with this kind of questions, you will draw 2-3 variations of these shifts by changing the magnitude of the shift of those simultaneous shifts of those graphs, and then compare the results, and the segment of your result that will hold up, that is, that will be the same across the iterations, that part will be robust, and the result that you find differently based on your shifting magnitude changes, that part of your result would be non-robust. Hopefully this concept was clear, and if you have additional question, please comment and email me. Thank you so much.